Okay, calling the last general laws meeting of this session to order. Members, please take your seat. Clerk, please open the roll. Now, I saw Delegate Wright here. Where is he?
He stepped out front.
Okay, all right. Delegate Walker. Well, we have a quorum. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to handle the subcommittee reports in numerical order. So, Delegate Fowler, you are first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hold on, let me bring up my computer here. But first up, we have Senate Bill 199, Monty Mason, and I had to bring up my computer because I got an amendment here, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, but this bill allows an advertisement for a public auction of personal property to satisfy a lien to be published on a publicly accessible website that conducts property sales. Under current law, an advertisement is required to be published in a newspaper of general circulation. Mr. Chairman, we added an amendment to the bill over in the Senate, which basically required that the rental agreement shall provide the occupant with the option to designate an alternative contact to receive the notices required by the section. So again, there'll be two opportunities there. The committee recommended reporting by a vote of 4-3, and I so move. I see we have the patron of the bill here.
Can you make a motion for the committee to adopt the amendments?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the amendment. Make a motion to adopt the amendments, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The amendments were before us. What was the committee's recommendation?
The recommendation was to report by a vote of 4-3, and I so move.
All right, this motion is second. All members, please cast your vote on the board. I'm sorry. Destroy the roll, please. Delegate Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, would the patron yield for a question, please?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, I was happy to talk to the patron previously on the bill, and even though I'll always have my bias as a print news reporter and everything, yes, I do appreciate the patron, number one, really trying to work in good faith and everything and figuring out a way, to come forward. My concern is always going to be on this, basically that, and the question for the patron is on this, if we don't have a print copy of this, and I think for all y'all who serve on courts, you'll probably agree that print is what holds up best in a court when you're trying to basically figure out whether something was advertised or not. My concern that I would love for the patron to address on this is if you have something that is not printed and it is on a privately run website in this case, how that can constitute, in that case, a public notice that is being pushed out into the community as opposed to something that people have to go and find, where a newspaper of general circulation is not only something that goes out into the community, but it comes with two online notice sections of that, both on the newspaper's website as well as the Virginia Press Association's website to go along with it. And would the patron just basically address that concern?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Rome, I think that really identifies the issue in a really good way, because the newspaper element of this is really not the notice element. The contract stipulates that you have a contact person, here's how you get up with us, here are your contractual obligations. And so the notice provisions are located in the contract. You're calling, you're emailing, you're trying to contact. The amendment now says I have an alternative contact, someone else to get to. The newspaper element of it is simply the disposition element of. So some of the, I picked up 4 Farmville Heralds, a small town newspaper that could be impacted for the month of February, and there's not a single storage notification in there. What's in there is foreclosure, because remember, that is notice to your largest asset, to the world, to people. This is just, you have gotten beyond the notification to the contract, the person who has signed the contract, and now you are just disposing of the property. And very often these notifications say E60, F122, they don't even state Monty Mason.
So, Mr. Chair, speaking to the bill.
Delegate Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, even with that and understanding, like basically, like that's just a disposition. At the same time, that disposition, that becomes the printed word of record. And this is where I come in with my concern on it at that point, is because it is a printed word of record that is pushed into a community in a finite way where it cannot be hacked. You can destroy a newspaper, but there are still thousands that have been sent out into it. And you have two levels of redundancy in terms of the two websites hosting it. My concern is that when you have it on a singular website at that point, and it is a singular website that can be run by a for-profit entity at that point, my concern is that something can happen where that record is deleted, it is hacked, it is changed, and the record of what has happened will not be consistent with what is being presented to the public at that point. And I think we can probably all find instances where you have an issue where something that was on a website one day disappears the other day. But if you've got three levels of redundancy, I feel that you're in a much better place to, number one, hold up that argument in court, including on the disposition part in terms of just evidence that it's been done. And number two, that's been done correctly with the proper oversight that an independent news organization kind of brings with its eyes on it.
Okay, Delegate Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have just a brief comment, please.
Yes, sir.
The current law, the way I understand it, that an advertisement is required to be published in a newspaper for the public auction of personal property. And I kind of see this as a step down a road that I don't want to go. There's been a lot of bills brought up that would cut out the newspapers. In my area, I've got 8 local newspapers in my district, one of which is the Farmville Herald that he mentioned, and very poor broadband service. So that's my position on it, and I can understand the point that it's trying to be made, but I'll be voting against this bill.
Delegate Coiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking to the motion.
Floor is yours.
I will be supporting this, and I would encourage others to as well. I think from a legal perspective, the notice provision has already been done, right? We're not determining, we have a specific reason when we talk about newspapers in a community of advertising where we're putting you on notice for things like foreclosures, because you're most likely, because you live in that community, that's the place you will go look. That notice is being taken care of. There's requirements for mailing. There's requirements if you can't identify them of how you provide notice for that. Our public interest on the back end, once that notice has been provided and you're in default, you owe money and you're going to rack up more debt the longer your stuff stays there. The public interest shifts to as many people as possible knowing that this stuff is for sale, so you as the debtor get as much money as you can paid off on your debt, the stuff is removed as quickly as possible, and you owe less money to the holder of the stuff. So we actually should have as broad an audience, not just one local newspaper. So I'm supportive of it because the reason for the local and the more concentrated interest for the individual has been protected. Them going with the broadest audience as possible to be able to purchase, and you get more notice of that. And I think that's a very important public interest here.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Corner. All right, there are no other members in the queue who have questions or comments, so Mr. Clerk, could you open the roll? Okay, all members voted? I know we're missing a few. I don't want to miss all members present and voted. All right, that motion carries on a vote of 11-8 to 1.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I thank you and the subcommittee for a very thorough and fair vetting of the bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator. Delegate Fowler.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next up, we got Senate Bill 544 brought to us by Senator Marsden. This bill provides that the Board for Barbers and Cosmetology shall require completion of no more than 1,000 hours of training in the field for initial licensing in cosmetology. Again, I was looking for the amendment. I can't find it in front of me, Mr. Chairman, but the bill was amended which would allow DPOR to also provide for greater than 1,000 hours if required. And again, the committee the committee recommended reporting by a vote of 6-1 with one abstention. I so move.
Okay, just make sure we're in the correct procedural posture. I believe the senator started his presentation by offering a substitute, and so we want to adopt the substitute. There's a motion, a second to adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And then I was here, but I was kind of a little bit distracted. But I think even after the substitute was offered, were there amendments to that? Does anyone recall? Okay,
There were no amendments to the substitute, Mr.
So
Chairman.
having the substitute in front of us puts us in the correct posture. I see Delegate Torian has in the queue. Delegate Torian.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I was here for a portion of the meeting, but I didn't quite get the essence of the substitute. Tell me what that does, please. I didn't get the essence of the substitute. I had to step up, but I know one was introduced. So can someone just kindly tell me what it does?
Someone on that subcommittee like to address Delegate Torian's question?
Ashley, I don't have the substitute in front of me. I don't know if you still have a copy.
I mean, I can't read it, but I can remember it.
Delegate Adams.
The substitute basically says that to have a license in cosmetology, the minimum required hours is 1,000 hours, but it does not prohibit a program from increasing that above 1,000 hours.
Okay.
That is essentially what the substitute does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Got that right here.
All right. Any other members have questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Torian.
This is a piece of legislation that has come before us in the past, and I would tell you, in listening to some of the testimonies today, it gives me great concern. I would love to have seen some kind of compromise between that 1,000 and 1,500, and because they were hard set on this whole 1,000 hours, and considering what some of these fine folks, the testimonies that they shared as they came in from Virginia Beach and Roanoke, I think it's a big reach to go from 1,500 hours of training to 1,000 hours of training. I would love to have seen a greater compromise, maybe at 1,200, 1,250.
Mr. Chairman.
That would have been my preference, Mr. Chairman.
I can respond. Mr. Chairman, I'll just respond, if it's okay, to
Delegate Fowler.
Delegate Torian. We added the substitute basically says that the board shall require completion of no more than 1,000 hours of training in the field for which an applicant for a license to practice cosmetology seeks initial licensing. However, nothing in this section shall prohibit the board from approving a curriculum consisting of more than 1,000 hours. So that's the substitute.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. I see Delegate Adams is in the queue. Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was on the subcommittee, and I appreciate all the testimony. I know I asked a million questions at the time, but I really did have a huge problem with the substitute because in my mind, it does nothing and says nothing. In my mind, this is not illegal now to have a longer program, and so I really, too, also wish that there had been some kind of multiple, recognizing that cosmetology is a broad base of skills, and getting people back to work is incredibly important, and haircutting would have been a level 1 skill that maybe 1,000 hours is appropriate for. So, I really struggled. I abstained. I'll be voting no, and I'll be voting no based on all of the information presented today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. We got quite a few people signed up in the queue. Delegate Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief in that. So I spoke to people ahead of time, both for and against the bill, really try to listen with an open mind and everything. And the question that I did not think, when I sat here and just listened to the debate as someone who's not a member of the subcommittee, the biggest concern that I had was regarding the Pell Grants. And the question became, that came back and forth about whether or not students were going to end up being jeopardized in terms of that eligibility. And I do see someone here who did speak to that earlier, but I'm not sure that the bill hit the right spot in terms of making sure that everyone who is going to have that Pell eligibility in the first place for this was going to be able to see that through its fruition. If anyone in the audience is willing to address it, Mr. Chair, with your consent, I'm happy to hear it, but otherwise, that was my largest concern on the bill.
Well, we're going to listen to our fellow committee members before we get into the audience again, if at all. Delegate Torian.
I know what the substitute states, but I have very little confidence that they're going to go beyond 1,000 hours. I have very little confidence in that. These folks who came up, these are folks who are blue-collar workers who are looking out not only for their health and well-being, but for their customers as well. And if they're telling us that 1,000 hours of training, that they feel uncomfortable moving forward with putting chemicals in men and women's hair because they just feel as though that's not adequate training. I would love to see a more set number between that 1,000 and 1,500. Set it at 1,250, reach some kind of compromise, but to give you exactly what you want with no compromise, I think that, and I don't know if some kind of substitute motion is in order, Mr. Chairman. If so, I would like to offer that.
Can't stop you.
Mr. Chairman.
No, I mean, we can't stop you from making a motion. That's your prerogative.
I would like to offer a substitute motion that the number go from 1,500 to 1,250 in training hours.
Okay. There's a motion to make it 1,250 hours. Is there a second? All right, so motion and a second. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. I think the noes have it. All right, in the judgment of the chair, I think they were a little bit louder. All right. Delegate Campbell, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it seems to me that the reason that we have licensing in this field is because we're trying to set minimum training requirements with respect to the conduct of this industry to protect the health and safety of the public. Now, I don't know how we arbitrarily pick a figure. I understand and appreciate the motion from Delegate Torian to try to set it at 1,250, but I assume we just didn't pick this 1,500-hour figure out of thin air in the past. I think there's probably been some study behind that to determine exactly how much time a person needed to put in to become proficient in the profession and ensure that they don't harm someone. So I guess I'm at a loss because I've heard no empirical evidence, no studies, nothing to support that somehow magically people today can gain that requisite knowledge in 1,000 hours that they heretofore had to get in 1,500 hours prior. So I will say I'm not going to be supporting the bill going forward until somebody can show me, that the health and safety of the public can be protected.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Corner,
Mr. Chair, speaking to the motion.
you have the floor.
I'm also not going to be supporting the bill. When we look at other professions, I listened to some of the testimony as well when we said we need more people in the profession and it costs too much to get the license. Well, we took our teachers down from 5 years to 4 years and did not solve our teacher problems. You look at other professions, we've done it too. Again, there's a reason why we have the hours that we have. And I think it's important for folks who are going into the industry for their long-term success, not just to immediately get out and have a job immediately, but for their long-term success and for the public. So for that reason, I will not be supporting it either.
Okay, Delegate Wampler, Van Valkenburg, and then Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking to the bill. So oftentimes up here you hear a lot from lobbyists and from legislators on issues. I left the building and went down the hill and got a haircut this week. Cut the mullet off. And I talked with my hairdresser, and I know this is broader than just hair, but I asked her, is this a reasonable number? And she said, absolutely. And so I'm going to trust the expert on this. I'm also going to be a no on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Van Valkenburg.
Speaking to the bill, Mr. Chair.
You have the floor.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the body, I'm having flashbacks that are not positive flashbacks from this 2 years ago, because 2 years ago in our subcommittee we dealt with this bill for an hour on the House side, and then we dealt with this bill for an hour on the Senate side. And when the Senate bill came over, we tried to amend it to force DPOR to expedite a review of this regulation. We got it through subcommittee, and then the full committee killed it. And here we are today having this conversation again. And so I do not want to have Groundhog's Day again in 2 years or a year. And so I would like us to consider an amendment that would, or a substitute or whatever it would be, that would force DPOR to look at this regulation in an expedited way so that we can do that. And I had Ashley pull up what that amendment was from 2 years ago. And so maybe.
I'm sorry, I was in a sidebar.
No, you're fine. And so I don't know if what we passed 2 years ago is the right thing to do, but if Ashley can read it off, that could be maybe a starting point if people want to consider it, because I've spent a lot of time on this bill and I regret the hours I've lost. No offense to everybody that thinks that this is an important issue. I get that, but we've been spinning our wheels.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In 2020, it was Senate Bill 915, and there was an amendment that was offered in this committee, which turned the bill into a Section 1 bill that said the Board for Barbers and Cosmetologists shall consider amending regulations in 18 VAC 41-20-20 related to the licensure of cosmetologists. That substitute was offered, but the bill was ultimately tabled in House General Laws.
Okay. I'm impressed you found that so quickly, so accurately. Good job. All right. So, well, Delegate Van Valkenburg, you asked her to read that. What do you intend to do with that information?
I would propose that we consider as a full committee something along those lines so that we are actually facilitating the experts at DPOR looking at it. And so we're not just coming back and doing this bill again next year for an hour.
Okay, well, let's hold that thought just for a second, hear what other members have, and then we'll revisit that notion. Delegate Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In speaking to a couple of the comments in subcommittee, there was testimony that offered that there were I believe it's 5 states that had reduced to 1,000, and they've seen no difference in quality of service. That was offered as testimony. I wanted to address Delegate Campbell's comment on that. I would suggest the delegate's comment of sending it back to DPOR is probably a really good idea, and I would be supportive of that if it were to move forward.
Okay. Delegate Walker and then Delegate Campbell again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to address Delegate Van Valkenburger's concern about DPOR, one of the questions that I did ask Senator Marston, and actually I had 2 representatives here, I think, from DPOR, that they understand the issues, they're going to be looking into the issues. But I think the thing that gave me comfort was in the amendment that it was not going to be 1,000 hours. It's the option of 1,000 hours. And the current standard right now, according to DPOR, is 1,500 hours. Now, Mr. Chairman, there are some people that learn and pick up skills very quickly. And I think for those that can do it in 1,000 hours, we're not limiting. So I would hope that the committee would consider the amendments that were put before us. This also gives DPOR until I think it's 123. Was that the date, Senator?
I believe it was.
Okay, so it's not like we're going to make a change right now. I think DPOR has for the rest of the year to work with the parties involved in trying to come to some future, requirement if they're going to change that requirement. But I hate to limit and put an option on things when people can actually achieve their skill levels much quicker than the current required hours. This also, I had a concern about the grant funding for a lot of these schools. So by allowing them to continue to 1,500 hours, they would not lose any financial aid or support, any of these students that are going through the schools, as I understood from the testimony. So I'm going to be supporting this bill, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fully supportive of DPOR looking at this again. I'm not certain I want to see it in the code. I think it can be achieved by a letter. I think it's DPOR's job, quite frankly, and I guess that's the question I've got is why are we trying to address it legislatively when, quite frankly, we pay people to do this? It's pretty clear if it's been here, a couple years plus, that they should get the message, hey, this is something we should be looking at. So while I support sending it back to DPOR, I think it ought to be done by letter and not by putting it in the code. Thanks.
Okay, so every member who wished to speak so far has spoken. All right, and a motion is order. We adopted the substitute, but I'm reminded that I don't think there was actually a motion to report the substitute.
Mr. Chairman, question?
Delegate Robinson.
Can we accomplish this by sending a letter directly from the committee to DPOR without it being legislated?
Certainly, I think I could send a letter, but I don't know whether that would have the same force and effect as a Section 1 bill as suggested by Delegate Van Valkenburg. Chairman Knight confirms that suspicion. Before we take a motion, perhaps one last cut at the matter by Senator Marston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Change is always difficult, but we adjust. We don't, create perfection, but we've put in as much flexibility as we could possibly put in this bill through the substitute. But we need to get people back to work, and we need to make it easy for folks to get back to work. This pandemic has been devastating, and people are looking for career opportunities and a way to get this economy, going in some of the areas where it's weak. And so I would urge the panel to report this bill. I think it's very important for the industry, and everyone will be able to adjust to this. And we've given it some time for that to take place. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator. All right, so a motion would be in order.
Motion to report.
All right. There's a I heard a motion to report the substitute. I did not. There may have been a second. I did not hear it. I hear a motion.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to report with a second.
What are we reporting?
And I heard someone say they want to make a substitute motion. Going once, going twice.
Mr. Chair, substitute motion.
Okay, Delegate Campbell.
I move to gently lay the bill on the table and direct the chair to send a letter to DPOR to.
Okay, that is a superior motion. All right, all members, that's not debatable. Mr. Clerk, if you open the roll, all members cast your vote.
Do you want me to do Section 1 bill thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That motion to table the bill prevails on a vote of 12 to 10. So that bill is laid on the table, and I will write a letter. Delegate Fowler, does that complete your report? Okay. Hopefully we can run through the remaining. I'm gonna jump to. We don't have any members of the General Assembly in subcommittee report number 2. So why don't we jump to subcommittees 3 and 4 first to get some of our senators on their way. And I'm going to. Which of y'all has seniority? All right, we'll do subcommittee 3 first. Okay, Delegate Robinson.
Ask him his plate number.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, you want us to do the unanimous bills out first?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 325 by Senator Reeves. It just will allow the transport of increases from 1 gallon to 3 gallons, the amount of alcoholic beverages that a person may transport in and out of the Commonwealth, and consolidates current laws regarding the transportation of alcoholic beverages into or within the Commonwealth. And it passed at the Senate at 40-0, and the subcommittee also recommended reporting with amendments an 8-0 vote, and I so move.
Was the amendment moved on that? All right, so.
Oh, I moved the committee amendment.
All right. All those in favor of adopting the committee amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. There's been a motion to report in a second that with amendments, and there's been a request that we not vote on these in a block. So we'll take up Senate Bill 325 first. If we could open the roll, members, please cast your vote. Okay. Delegate Brewer. Delegate Brewer. All right. That motion carries on a vote of 21-1. Delegate Robinson.
The second bill we have is Senate Bill 527 by Senator Saslaw. And what this does is it just repeals the sunset off of 2017 legislation that increased from 101 to 151 the proof limit on natural grain spirits or alcohol that may be sold in government stores. Passed Senate 40-0, and the subcommittee recommended reporting on an 8-0 vote, and I so move.
There's a motion, a second. Members, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. Delegate Wampler.
Do you want to do the third?
All right. That motion carries on a vote of 20-2. All right. In your last bill, Delegate Robinson.
Yes, Senate Bill 402 by Senator Reeves. This was the charitable gaming powers and duties. It sets up an advisory board. It changes the policy board to an advisory board and the executive branch of the government, decreased membership from 11 to 9. And this is the bill that will have to do with the Texas Hold'em poker games and tournaments. We did not take an action on this piece of legislation. The subcommittee didn't take action and recommended that the bill be sent to full so that amendment could be added to the bill.
Okay, I want to ask the council to report the amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So there are 4 line amendments, but they do what was asked. So on line 1357, at the very end of the bill, in the third enactment clause, after the word services, insert in parentheses the commissioner. That's purely technical. On line 1358, after the word poker, strike games, and also technical, considering this bill is about Texas Hold'em poker tournaments and not games. On line 1359, after 2020, we're going to strike the remainder of that line and through Virginia, closed parentheses on line 1360. And lastly, after that sentence, we are going to insert the Commissioner's initial adoption of regulations necessary to implement the provisions of this enactment shall be exempt from the Administrative Process Act, Section 2.2-4000 et sec of the Code of Virginia, except that the Commissioner shall provide an opportunity for public comment on the regulations prior to adoption.
All right, there's been a motion to adopt those amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Senator Reeves, is the amendment as reported what you expected it to be?
It is, Mr. Chairman, and parties have agreed, so we are good to go.
Okay, thank you. All right. I get a motion report as
Second.
amended? All right, there's a motion and a second. All members, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. All right, that bill reports as amended on a vote of 21-1. Thank you, and sorry to
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
keep you waiting so long.
And Mr. Chairman, that completes my subcommittee report.
Okay, thank you. All right, Senator Servo, you only have a bill coming out of Subcommittee 2, correct?
Yep.
All right. So, Delegate Wampler, can you do your report next? And if you could handle Senator Servo's bill first.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, reporting for Subcommittee Number 2, we have Senate Bill 740. That's Senator Servo. What this bill requires is it directs the Department of Professional Occupation Regulation to establish a work group to study the adequacy of current laws addressing structural integrity. It's a pretty extensive list of items that this work group will look at. It was a contested vote of 4-3, and so I'd let the senator speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the bill is basically a reaction to what happened in Lakeland, Florida, where they had the condo collapsed and over 100 people died, and there was about $80 to $100 million uninsured losses. And a reaction to that, plus there was a condominium that suffered a partial collapse in my district, or near my district. Delegate Krizak's familiar with it because he had to deal with the fallout as well, but building dropped, the corner of a building dropped by 4 inches in the middle of a football game while everybody's watching NFL football one weekend. And there's a concern within both the community association industry and within some local governments about the adequacy of our current inspection system, our current insurance inspections, our current homeowners association, condo association laws, whether or not boards are properly incentivized to raise assessments and conduct the types of inspections and make repairs that they need to. And that's why you have such a robust set of things to look at. I've been working on the language over the last 12 months with various stakeholders, especially the CAI and some local governments, fire inspectors, et cetera, to try and make sure we had everything in here that needs to be looked at to make sure we're doing what we can so we don't have another 100 people die in a building collapse in Virginia. And that's basically what the bill does. DPOR had their input in it as well. We made some changes in the Senate that they requested. I'm not aware of any opposition to the bill from anybody, and so I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Okay, thank you, Senator Serville. I did not hear a motion to report.
I'll make a motion to report.
All right, there's a motion, a second to report. All members, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. All right, that bill reports 19-3. Thank you, Senator. Thank you for your patience.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed SB 527, or moved to report SB 527, I move that we reconsider that vote so one of our 2 nay votes may change their vote. Any seconds?
All right, there's a motion, a second to reconsider Senate Bill 527. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That bill is back before us. The clerk could open the roll. Right, okay, so move to report, and there's a second. All members. Delegate Wright, you have your light on. You have to make a comment on this bill?
Yes, I made a mistake on that bill. I misread it, and I appreciate the chance to correct it.
All right, thank you. All right, all members, please cast your vote.
Tommy doesn't want to vote for this, does he? I don't think Tommy wants to vote for this, I think. Or maybe he does.
All right, okay, all right. That bill reports 22-0.
I know. It's like,
okay. Delegate Wampler, can you pick up with the rest of your report, please?
I think everybody's excited about their 151 mojitos. All right, we're going to do Senate Bill 24. This is Senator Locke's eviction diversion pilot program. All this bill does is extend the pilot program from 23 to 24. It recommended reporting on a 6-0 vote, and I'd so move.
All right, next bill. I think we can handle these.
We're going to do them in a block. All right, so we've got Senate Bill 69, the Senator Favola's bill relating to child care and apartment complexes. It allows apartment complexes to be utilized for child care services as long as that is in line with other applicable law and regulation. It recommended reporting 7-0, and I'd so move with an amendment.
All right. All right, so motion report in a second. Then next bill.
Thank you. The last bill is Senate Bill 693. This is Senator Peterson's bill that turned into a Section 1 bill asking the Department of Occupations and Regulations to study this issue over the next year and report back. And the issue was whether audio or video recording should be used in an adverse proceeding, if they have to be provided in an adverse proceeding. And That reported 7-0, and I'd so move those three bills in a block.
Okay, so it's not on, in the haste of trying to transition from one committee meeting to another, I don't think that the printout we have reflects that there was an amendment to Senate Bill 69. That may not be on your list, Delegate Wampler, but there was. So
I think we adopted the amendment on 69, but there was a substitute on 693, and I would move the substitute on 693.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor of adopting substitute, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. I believe all amendments and substitutes have been adopted on Senate Bill 24, Senate Bill 69, and Senate Bill 693, and we can vote on those in a block. Members, please cast your vote. Right. That block of bills reports on a vote of 22-0.
That completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Wampler. Delegate Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Senate Bill 152 from Senator Locke, which defined official public government website as it applies to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and the Virginia Freedom of Information Advisory Council as any internet site controlled by a public body and used among other purposes to post required notices and other content pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act on behalf of the public body. The bill was a recommendation from the Virginia Freedom of Information Advisory Council. Subcommittee recommended reporting 7-0, and I so move.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All members, please cast your vote on the electronic voting board. That bill reports 22-0. Delegate Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next bill, Senator Bell's Senate Bill 258, dealt with establishing bid bonds in construction contracts under the Public Procurement Act. There is a substitute that Senator Bell has asked that we introduce at full committee here. The bill, as it passed the subcommittee, did not include transportation projects, and they wish to include that in it at this point.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the substitute? All right. There's a motion to adopt the substitute in a second. All those members in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Substitute's before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so with the substitute, this would basically provide that except in cases of emergency, all bid and proposals for construction contracts in excess of $500,000 shall be accompanied by a bid bond. The transportation projects would now require in excess of $350,000 would require that. Subcommittee recommended reporting the previous bill by 6-1 margin, and I would so move the substitute.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All members wishing to vote on the matter, please do so on the board. That bill reports on a vote of 22-0. Delegate Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And similarly, Senate Bill 259 from Senator Bell dealt with the posting of performance and payment bonds in construction contracts. The substitute that he wishes to introduce today would reincorporate transportation projects back into the bill, and I would move the substitute accordingly.
All members in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Substitute's before us.
And I would move approval of the substitute.
All right. There's a motion and a second to report the substitute. All those members who wish to vote on the matter, please do so on the board. That bill reports on a vote of 22-0.
Mr. Chair, that would complete our report.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to keep people here any longer than they have to, but I just wanted to thank each committee member for their vigorous and sincere and collegial work on this committee this session. I don't think that we argued or quarreled too much or got under each other's skin a whole lot, and I just really appreciate everybody working together in a collaborative effort to get our docket done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We are done.